Happy Friday, all. Welcome, everybody. I'm sure we'll get a few more stragglers in at some point later. I want to introduce you all. This is Scuba Pete. I'm sure everybody probably knows who he is by now.
Hello.
And if you don't, what's wrong with you? So how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for agreeing to come on. I mean,
Heck
honestly.
yeah. Makes for an awesome Friday night.
It is Friday night. It is Friday night. Everybody's out having fun on Friday nights, except me. I'm stuck at home. That's how life is. That's how life works. So we're going to kind of start. We're going to talk about this spectrum of nerd, as I like to call it.
Yes.
It's based on Don McMillan's stand-up, but it's kind of modified a little bit for what we do. So because we're all toy collectors, we all kind of fall somewhere in this spectrum. Not everybody has everything, but we'll talk about it. So
yeah.
Here's how this works. If we have a high IQ and we're socially awkward, we qualify as the dork section. If we are socially awkward and we have an obsession, we might fall into the stalker section. If we're high IQ and obsessed, we're the geek. If we have all three, we're the nerd. Now, in order to move from dork to nerd, you have to get an obsession. In order to move from geek to nerd, you have to become socially awkward. And in order to move from stalker to nerd, somehow you have to improve your IQ. I'm sure somebody can do that, but whatever works for you.
You're really going to have to hit the books.
You're going to have to hit the books. You're going to have to figure out something to do there. Whatever works for you. So, that being said, where does Scuba Pete fall on that spectrum?
You know what? I float between geek and nerd. I reverberate back and forth.
You're fluid. I got it.
Yeah. I mean, there's days that you want to be engaging and you're interacting with people, and then there's days where you're just plumb run out of fuel. Your tank is empty, and
I'm going with my toys. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it's like I'm going home and I'm gonna mess and play with my toys.
Exactly. There you go. That's how that works. So, one of the things that I do, I try to be kind of a positive person on this in this area of spectrum, because with that growing negativity that seems to be permeating everywhere in the real world, and even in the toy space now, where negativity is rewarded with clicks and bans and whatever.
Yep, it can happen.
I wanted to do something different. I wanted to focus on the positive aspects of collecting, and I wanted to focus on those of us who, as adults, we forget to play. One of the most important things that we can do as adults, especially for longevity and brain health overall, is play. So I'm going to define a play state, and then we're going to go through some questions about that. So a play state is anything where it's a state of mind where you're absorbed in an activity and you're getting enjoyment from it, and you lose a sense of time. So you're absorbed. In psychology, we call this flow. You're not paying attention to the future, the past. It's you're in the moment, you're present, and you're enjoying yourself. So, based on that definition, when was the last time that Scuba Pete played?
You know what? I'm gonna throw this out there. So, Scuba is not just a nickname. That's part of my job, right? So I dive large aquariums, and so I'm in there scrubbing quite often, on a weekly basis, oftentimes for 2 to 4 hours dive times. That, by your definition, I take it's almost like that satisfaction of mowing your grass, and at the end you're like,
yeah,
ooh, that looks good. I get that when I'm in there scrubbing with my new best friend, which is this rotary scrubber. It's battery powered, submersible, and so it's it's a little high tech, but very satisfying, just and that algae's coming off. And I get the goof with, like if there's kids going by, blow bubbles and do all that. But you definitely, since you're underwater, I lose all sense of time. I mean, only I have to look at my dive safety, which is Leslie, and go, time, and she's like, it's 8 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, I've been under for 2.5. Oh, okay. Well, still got about, 30 minutes. So that would be like, even at work, because like I said, I get a sense of enjoyment out of that. I lose myself in that. But as far as, probably the easy answer of playing, it's coming into like this. I'm in the new toy room expansion, as everybody's calling it. We're empty nesting. So I
call it the toy acquisition room.
Yes. And so I've built the cabinet the other day, and I've been working on lighting in 2 other cabinets that I built. So I think I was down here for like 4 hours. I had no idea what time it was. It was like, it's midnight? What?
Yeah, I installed a new shelf last Saturday, and I was like, yeah, this is only going to take a little bit of time. 6 hours later, I'm just
the SpongeBob.
I'm done. So about half of it got packed into a box and just shoved in the last shelf. And it's like, I'm not doing with this. So I'll deal with it next weekend. Done with it for now.
There is a childlike quality to having completed that shelf unit, because now I'm like, oh, how am I going to set it up? This is play. Yeah. Like, how am I going to position my action force in there? Like, I'm excited to get it in there and mess around with different looks. Yeah.
I'm not big on the sterile look of a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I really want something dynamic and moving. Yeah. So, when I put the stuff in there right now, it's a little sterile because I haven't built the dioramas, because originally, I hadn't planned on getting this shelf until a little bit later, but I was like, you know what? I need it because I'm going to need it for storage. I'm going to need it for setting up all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll just get it. Pay $20 a month for 6 months, and it's taken care of. Not worry about it. So, but it's just one of those things is when you get that, it's like, oh, this looks great with all this space, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Now I got 20 other things that are gonna come and take this space. Can't do that with that, but I can do it with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's one of those things. It's nice that I build the diorama, so then I at least I'm not paying extra for that, other than what I have to buy in basic supplies. But I would much rather build the diorama that costs $6, $7, $10, $20 maybe than pay for one for 80. So and I'll know how it's set up, and can customize it as much as I want. That's the other thing too. So but since everybody's here to play with us, let's see who's here. Happy, actually.
Hey, Happy.
What's up, Happy? How you doing, man? He for whatever reason, he usually is doing like editing, and he's doing other stuff usually when he's on the show. He enjoys listening to us. Apparently, somebody, I don't know how he does that, because honestly, I couldn't stand to listen to myself for 2 hours. That's me. Mr. Nolan, you've made it when Nolan shows up in your chat, right? Because he's in everybody's chat. Like,
he's everywhere.
Chat. And Casey from Podcast from the Pit.
Hey, what's up, Casey?
And there's Duffman's Diorama. How are you, sir?
Duffman.
And the Ed Action Figs causing trouble in the chat. Yeah. That's what he's doing. So that's everybody so far. We'll see who comes in later. There will be people later, I'm sure. But so we've defined a play state. We've given you this last time you played. When you were a kid, what were your favorite ways to play? Did everything have to go in its own little world? Did it all get mixed together? Did it matter? Was there a structure to it? Did you just randomly, was it imaginary?
Let's see. It definitely was compartmentalized. Like if I was playing Star Wars, then it was Star Wars. But like He-Man didn't show up in my Star Wars world. Like what? No, he's from another planet called Eternia. But my earliest memories of playing is definitely Fisher Price Adventure People, the aquatic rescue with the helicopter and the sub, and the rubbery octopus and the skin diver, like in the tub, bath time, and begging, like it. I would be in there for like well past the temperature, is now cold, and you like begging your mom to like, can you put some more hot water in here? And she's like, you're getting all pruny,
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
like, just a little bit longer, because I've got like
and
little
now we
people.
know why you like playing in water so much.
You know what? It was kind of the more I stop and kind of take a little retrospective there, I'm like, yep, all along.
Yeah,
what was
Ed
my
is with you
favorite
on the Adventure People, because that was one of his things too as a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
I think those came along a little before me, because I think really the first toys that I can remember having were Star Wars.
Okay.
I'm sure I probably had like the Fisher Price, the little people things, the little Weeble Wobbles. I remember the Weebles.
Yep, Weebles were good. I had the ranch.
Yeah,
and the treehouse.
But really the first toys that I can remember playing with were Star Wars. I probably had a few others, but most of that stuff, it was kind of hand-me-downs kind of thing. So when you were playing as a child, do you kind of remember how that made you feel?
Oh yeah, I would. So I would take my like X-wing and a Farm Boy Luke and a brown blanket that we had downstairs, and no TV on or anything like that. Like you would just have like a small light on in the basement. And I also had a younger brother, so we often played together. We got along pretty well most days, but definitely for me that was flying my X-wing down there, and I was on Tatooine. I wouldn't take my inside toys outside, so I didn't worry about losing. Well, I say that as I look at my Adventure People parachutist. Star Wars, it did not go outside. It did go to friends' houses, but we played inside. But I would not take that to the sandbox. We had this big 4x8 sandbox in the backyard, and I would play out there. But that would be, again, more compartmentalized. That would be like the little green army men, and flooding and building and, begging to, can I please turn the hose on again? Yes, but don't, leave it running. Okay, we promise.
Yeah. It's the stuff that you didn't mind losing would go there, right? Is that what that?
Yeah.
It's like,
you lose a green army man, and you're not crying, but
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that sense of I don't know, just like you said earlier, no sense of time at all. I mean, you burn up a whole afternoon playing in the sandbox or playing downstairs, or building at the Lego table that we had like in the little playroom area. Had my space Legos in there. Just get lost. And we had a neighborhood where there was a lot of kids.
So you had, that's always good. That's one of those things that if you had a neighborhood full of people that were, doing the same things, you could do big battles and, we had that when we lived in Colorado, but when we moved to Oklahoma, that kind of went
out
south
the window.
As a kid. Less population density, so it's
it was nice to be able to play with like more than one stormtrooper, which is all I had.
Exactly. we didn't army build as kids, did we? No, I don't.
No.
Some people that did, I just like looked at them like, really. Your mom was okay with buying that figure more than once? Really?
Right. Yeah. Like occasionally you might get a gift from like your grandparents or your aunt and uncle that was a duplicate, but very rarely did
and of course
overlap.
It would be a figure that isn't really an army builder. It would be like you get a second shipwreck or a second
or a Dengar.
Like, I don't need regular He-Man again, okay?
Yeah. Could have been Battle Punch.
Yeah, exactly. So, in thinking about those feelings that you had as a child, when was the last time you had those feelings as an adult?
that's honestly coming, like I said, coming down into this space. And sometimes I get nothing done at all. I'll throw a YouTube video on, and then I start kind of just futzing with something, a figure or unboxing something, and yeah, just kind of get lost in the moment, and you mentally just blink out and just enjoy that, because it is such, I do a lot of interstate driving to get to accounts, and that's stressful in its own right. And so it's nice just to
decompress.
But you know what? At the same time, I'm gonna take it even to a community wide. So, thanks to lockdown, got friends all over the planet now.
Yeah.
And some of those friends, we get together and chat almost like a church small group, if you can say that. We do life together. Like, we're hanging out all the time. I talk to them sometimes more frequently than my own family, just simply because maybe they got something going on or they're having a bad day, and they'll hit the old Instagram ring it up button, and all of a sudden this group chat, and we're talking like this, and again, 3 hours goes by in the blink of an eye.
It does. It's strange because, if you had told me, I started collecting again after not collecting for a very, very long time. It was almost 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably right around 22 years was the last time that I collected toys. If you had told me in 2022 that sometime in 2023 I would have a channel where I would be talking to people about toys, I probably would have said you were insane.
Yeah, be like, what? No way.
I am as naturally as I am. I'm autistic, so I have those issues where I just, social interaction sometimes is a very, very learned skill for me.
Right.
I have almost a doctorate in psychology. I left school in my dissertation because of my son's autism. It was one of those things where I couldn't manage him and my other son. They were both under 4. My youngest was 2 around that time when I left school. And I couldn't work full time and manage that and manage to do all the other stuff that I needed to do for the dissertation after a year of getting jerked around by my reviewers. So at that point, I was just like, I'm done. I'm not playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was supposed to have the same reviewer every quarter, but I literally got a new reviewer every quarter. So I had to completely rewrite a dissertation 4 times in less than a year.
Oh, what the heck?
Point. And we're talking 130 pages. So it wasn't like it was something small.
Yeah, it wasn't some little 8-page.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so you're like,
at that point, I'm just like, you know what? At one point, you just have to say, you know what? Do I need it to make my life complete? No. And I have these other things that are propping up they're fires that I have to deal with, and they stay with me. they're never going away. Fires.
Yeah,
they will be fires until I die. So it is what it is. Yeah. I wouldn't trade it because it's brought me some compassion. It's brought me some understanding a little more than I was prior to my youngest boys. He's nonverbal, so he can't speak. He can't tell you what he feels. He can't tell you what he wants. He uses an iPad for some basic communication, but most of the time you're going to get aggression because he can't express in a way that, he's 14 now, so he's big and he's strong and he can hurt people. So, I made choice. I got to be with him to help him in his day-to-days. He only goes to school 5 hours a week. So, it's all mom and dad. So we do what we got to do.
My good friend Shabby, he's got a son who, they homeschool, and he's the same way. It's just, Kobe is a great kid. I've got to hang out with him multiple times. We make trips. Shabby lives, I think, about 8.5 hours from us in North Carolina, but we've popped over that way, and we will again. But the last time we were over there, Kobe came up, like, we sat on the couch. He came up and gave me a big kiss, and that was his, like, I like that you're here. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Cobes.
Yeah, exactly.
And the
Yeah.
very first visit was, your nose is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it is. This thing is ginormous. When Shabby's like, Kobe. And I'm like, it's okay.
It's fine.
It's
It
okay.
is. That's what he does. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get
You just
it in.
roll with it.
So, is there any difference now playing with toys versus when you were a kid?
Yeah, I wish I had more time to play with my toys and monkey with them and build like awesome dioramas like you're doing. Yeah, I find myself going, yeah, got to do all that real life work stuff, and then you think maybe, I'm gonna come home and tonight's the night, it's Tuesday night, and I'm gonna finally monkey with my stuff, and you get home and you're like, the phone rings and, hey, what do you guys want to meet us for dinner? And you're like, yes I do. And it's like, okay, toys are gonna be, they get put on the back burner again. So
Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Exactly. And so I get now where I crave, wanting to be able to mess with it. And I get to hunt a lot. We're blessed with copious storage here in the Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky area. And that's a lot of fun. And Leslie's gotten into she collects strawberry shortcake now. So she's so when we go to these conventions or go to a store, she says things like I've always said, I just wasn't aware of it. She's like, hey, do you mind if I get these 2 figures? They're super rare strawberry shortcake. And I'm like, is that what I sound like? And she was like, uh-huh. And she's like, here in my book, here, let me show you my book. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I sound. But then
that's the great thing. My wife does makeup, so she does these tutorials. Cool. She also does, like, right now she's doing like Halloween makeups. So we kind of have this thing where I talk about toys and she talks about makeup, and it's kind of this parallel.
Yeah.
For each of us, it's like this special interest parallel that we're talking about each other's stuff. So yeah, I get that. So what were your childhood toy lines?
Like I said, so it was Fisher Price until what was Star Wars in 77, 78. So I'm a 72 baby. So, I'm 5-6-year-old. So that blew my socks off. And, that next year when all the figures came out, it was just like, wow, it really was groundbreaking to me that now you could get this figure and play out the storylines of the movie, or you could do new adventures. Like, that was earth shattering. Like, you had a basis to start that play, but then it could go wherever.
Yeah, they had comics, and they started that first couple of years. They were definitely trying to do a multimedia kind of thing with it for a while. That the abomination that is the Christmas special.
Right.
The holiday spectacular. Ooh, no,
Happy Life
it was
Day.
not.
Yikes!
It was not spectacular in the least.
You know what? We should have Princess Leia sing. Yes, that's what we should do.
Yeah, exactly. Should we have this strange Wookiee family thing?
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
yikes!
Yeah, somebody was doing some good stuff.
Yeah. So it was Star Wars, and then throw in He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Like, my brother and I definitely played He-Man together. Strangely, he was He-Man and Skeletor. I got to thinking about that the other day, chatting about it. But yeah, he was like the 2 big characters, and I was Duncan. I was Man-at-Arms. Like, he was, I had the Battle Ram and Duncan.
Well, technically, you were the more,
right.
You had more skills.
I was all right with that. Yeah, me smash. Space Lego. Could never get enough of Space Lego. I still have all that Lego, and the
Wow.
instruction sheet. So in some future, I want to start building those back. You know, just
Yeah.
to have that feeling of making that set again. What's what I'm looking at right now is a giant aquatic underwater world that my daughter and I built over the years as she was growing up. So definitely underwater. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And GI Joe, bonkers for GI Joe. When that came out, it was like Star Wars, huh? No, GI Joe. Look at that articulation and all the vehicles and the world building that you could do with GI Joe. It was just earth shattering. And again, my brother and I played that together, and so he would get that vehicle, I would get this vehicle. He, for Christmas, he got the Terradrome, I got the tactical battle platform. So we were able to bring all that together and really have a good time. But yeah, those would probably be the biggest toys in my childhood. Yep.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go through and we're gonna show some pictures of your current toys, which also represent some childhood toys. Now, are any of these your childhood toys that survived?
Tons. Yep.
Okay. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, GI Joe is a lot of childhood survivor, and then Star Wars.
Yeah, I've told the story about my ex-wife selling my GI Joe stuff for $75, including my flag. So
I know, I remember when you said that, and I was like, "Oh God!"
It's a tragedy, but it is what it is. So this is this the old toy room, or is this the current toy room?
That's toy room number 1, which is our living room downstairs. Yep.
This is a little bit of everything. I mean, you got Joe, you got Star Wars.
Got the flag on a custom base down there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got, and you have carded, and you have some boxes, and
yeah, that's the more modern.
The retro line that they did. Yeah.
Yep. But that's the Terradrome there. That was my brother's
GI Joe headquarters, and then is that the Palatoy?
That is the Palatoy Action Force headquarters.
That's what I thought.
Very good spot. Yeah.
I was wondering if that's what it was.
Yep.
Now you have a couple of different Millennium Falcons, because you got I think those are probably what Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi one on the shelf.
The one on the shelf
one is the
one that's on the shelf there where the cursor is. That is my childhood one from Star Wars, and I have it sitting next to me. I finally acquired the Star Wars box to go with it at a toy show in Xenia, Ohio. So
yeah, I sold my vintage Star Wars collection April of last year. I had a Empire Strikes Back Millennium Falcon with box, with instructions. The only thing I didn't have was the extra cardboard. I took care of my toys. I also sold a 12-inch Boba Fett complete with box, with inserts.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, no, I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid.
Like the inserts, I love it.
And I did the same. Now the box was a little beat up. I mean, the box is 40 some odd years old.
Yeah, but still, for it to still exist.
Yeah. Now Boba Fett did have to have his hands, surgically repaired a couple times, because for whatever reason that design was awful. Those hands, the wrists, it just didn't hold up over time. So it definitely got epoxied a couple times. But and then I sold all of my figures. I had the Star Wars vinyl case.
Yep.
Collector case. Yeah. It had all of my pamphlets that had all the sales.
Yeah, all the little catalogs.
Yeah. It had all that in it. It had still in it that hadn't been used.
Dude.
So I mean, it was weird. It was weird when I went through it when I was selling it, because I also sold my Power of the Force stuff too. But that's what got me back into collecting as a young adult, was Power of the Force, which was obviously where Star Wars was kind of that thing.
Yeah.
after G.I. Joe. So,
Yep.
you know, it's an interesting thing of our generation kind of got that weird dynamic of how much we were sold to. We just didn't realize it.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, but we had all this great stuff.
We did.
How many of these properties survived to today?
Yeah.
Almost all of those ones that really were there are still there today.
But yeah,
It's
you're right.
really amazing.
Thanks to all the deregulation and the
yeah, exactly.
It's like, feed us.
Just give them all. Sell it to them. Sell it.
Collect them all. Okay, I wanna.
Now your Terrordrome's awesome, but you got a glob.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything going on in there.
You got a little bit of everything, yeah, exactly. But you know what? I mean, when you have space and you have to allocate it, you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that giant bat.
Yeah, it's Super 7 bat that's trying to grab the.
Okay? Is that what that was? I was like, what is that? Okay.
Yeah, in my head canon, it's yet Cobra went, okay, bats, they kind of they easily get blown up on the battlefield. What if we made a giant one to take on Joe, and that's where the dragon flies.
The kaiju bat.
Yeah, exactly. Like, holy cow, they're that big now.
It's the kaiju bat.
Yep.
Matthew Matson has joined us.
Hey, Matthew.
Hello, sir. And Allison Troy has joined us, and there was somebody else I wanted to say hi to, and now I can't remember where it was. Attorney in Lips. How you doing?
Hey.
All right. So, all right. Oop, nope. Go back. Get back. All right. There we go. I'll fight with it. Now, I do notice this. I'm assuming this Chewbacca over here is probably the more modern Chewbacca, but
more modern Chewbacca. That was a.
How's your foam on your Dagobah system?
So that I have two Dagobahs. That Dagobah is new foam, but my other one, it is still intact, and it's in the coffee table in front of that. I really need to display it better, but that Chewbacca was a gift from GeForce when we met up. So,
Mark, yeah, okay.
Yep.
It's those cups, don't drink out of them. You get lead poisoning.
That's right.
Isn't that amazing how many of those cups they, it's like no big deal. It's
no big deal.
Yeah, just give it to the kids.
You're good. They drink out of the hose. Who cares?
Gaz is asking someone say kaiju and space Legos. Yes. Yes, we did, sir.
And I've got my
Ewok Village.
Oh, that's the Robin Hood playset version because we've got the treetops to it. Yep.
Gotta love Kenner's reuse. They got a lot of mileage out of those sets. So
it's so good. I mean, I like it so much better than the regular, like, it looked like a forest fire came through the Ewok village with no foliage.
They're decimated trees, right?
Yeah. They're not yub-nubbing.
And here's your Slave One.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's my my childhood Falcon, and then that ornament is from Galaxy's Edge when my daughter and son-in-law went to. Yep. And got a little Bespin area there with the cloud car and a little cardboard diorama piece that I found. I was like, oh, I know exactly what shelf that's going on.
It's funny how we do that when we find those things. Like, I found these. There are like little vinyl sheets that you can buy on Amazon, and I attach them to foam board, and that's what I use for my backs for my shelves.
Cool.
What I use also for my diorama backs. I kind of match up the paint of the diorama to that paint
vinyl.
And they're great stuff because they come up. I got one right now that's 24 by 60.
Oh wow!
They're terrarium backs. They're designed for terrariums. So
okay, yep.
They're great stuff. It makes it easier when that way. I don't have to do an entire back paint. The last thing I want to do is paint an entire background and pull out my hair.
Yeah,
and that would be really hard pulling out my hair. I'm just saying. Now this is the original Cantina set, right?
Yep, and then it is full of just literally everybody from everywhere. I mean, there's Tron, there's Sark from Tron in there. I mean, it's
You know what? It works though. I
yeah.
mean, technically, it was a cantina scene, and there's your Rancor just sitting right next to it, getting ready to eat everybody.
Yep. Yep, that's our childhood Rancor. That's
Now,
the
is this the Tatooine?
yeah, the Jawa
with
playset.
the Jawa playset. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Because
an
I
extra.
had that one as a kid. I remember that one, and I remember the Hoth one, and they were the same playset, just recolored. So,
yep.
And the back was different, but that was hours of fun, honestly.
Yeah, it's in my hunts. You know, every once in a while you come across the base plates like that, and you know, $10-15, you know, is usually what somebody wants for them, and you're like, yeah, all right.
Well, it's great. It's great molded plastic. It can be used. You know, all you got to do is find something to put on the backdrop, and then you're good.
The flag.
Now, here's your Joes.
Yep, Cobra's trying to invade.
And all, huh? The A#1 worst vehicle design ever, Buzzboars.
It's always just bloop, flat.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's the vehicle that makes no sense in the greater scheme of everything. It's like, who designed this one? It doesn't seem like it would work very well.
It's a typical Cobra.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a Mars Industry fail.
I need a saw blade, Destro.
Yeah, exactly. So this honestly was my favorite playset. It was literally set up in my attic, along with my He-Man and my Thundercats, my Cat Slayer. Until I was 17 years old. And every time we moved, I would make a point to put it up and set it up in an attic because that's all I had space for. Because that thing was
7.5 feet long.
It was most of my rooms were not fit to my
bedroom.
Have
the either have your twin bed or a flag.
Yeah, I gotta have the bed. Although in retrospect, maybe I should have just had the flag. Just sleep on the deck.
I didn't have it as a kid, and I didn't know anybody who had it in my sphere. You know, even I don't remember anybody even talking about it on the playground. You know, that they had it. That was
I worked really hard one summer, sweating my butt off in a warehouse to earn the money to get it. So sweeping floors, airing up tires, putting together shelving units. So I worked hard to get the money for that. So it was one of those ones that I was happy about.
That's cool, though.
Take care of. And I guess Lawrence you have that boat and base. Yes, we know, Lawrence. We know. We're fully aware.
What's up?
You tell us all the time. You still have your childhood flag. Now this was interesting. What is this, and where did it come from?
So that was my very first custom that I did. That is a Sentinel-1 Chap May have you sub that I took apart and painted up to be a Cobra sub because I needed, something chasing the flag, as it were. The Cobra up top, I found that's the top to a Pimp Daddy cane. If you go to like a Halloween store.
Interesting.
And yeah, so that's all goldish plastic, and so I just painted it up.
That's cool.
And then
and it aesthetically fits in really well.
Yeah, it fit perfectly in the sail of the sub, and I've got some built-in LED lights that I can turn on. But yeah,
that's cool.
I like it. And then instead of because the Sentinel-1 in the back had like a missile launcher, the hatch goes open and there was like 8 missiles in there or whatever. For me, that's a diver lockout chamber, so it can Cobra eels can easily go out for sabotage. Yep.
Here's your AT-AT and Hoth display. I love that your Wampa is sitting there trying to stop.
Yeah, right. Like, stop.
That's hilarious. That's great.
Yep. Empire's my favorite movie, and yeah, I'm in love with Hoth. I in the scheme of HasLab ideas and the way it was presented, that it's going to be these just grandiose ideas. We're going to go crazy, and I'm like, Echo Base, like, please.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the thing is that playsets are kind of a lost art now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really only one company really producing playsets, and they're not
few
cheap.
and far between. Yeah, and they are not cheap.
So I mean, now it's all the cardboard. I mean, I would be okay with cardboard playsets overall if that was what we were going to go to, but it's not like that would be a huge change from childhood, because childhood,
right?
What did we have? I mean, the first G.I. Joe playset technically is a cardboard cutout of Missile Command for Cobra. So it's not like we were misled in that great scheme.
No, we're like, we like cardboard.
It's fine.
We pay good money for cardboard.
Exactly. We pay good, and we would just make sure that we didn't take it outside or get it wet, and we were fine.
That was the cardboard AT-AT set was my. That's not my childhood one. It did not survive, but that was my AT-AT. Like, mom and dad were like, "No, we're not. We're not. You're not getting."
No, when Power of the Force came out, it was all about getting all of the vehicles that I didn't get as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And number one with the bullet for me was an AT-AT.
Yep.
So I mean, there were some great vehicles that came out in that set that grouping when they sold them, but man, that AT-AT for me was just it. When I got it, my ex-wife, she got it for me for Christmas, and I remember just opening it, and I was just like, this is like my childhood. I missed out on this. I mean, I didn't have a bad childhood, but that was the one thing that I really would have wanted as a kid, and I didn't get it. So yeah, no, AT-AT's always going to have a special place. Now, this is some interesting things. Now, I'm assuming these are all vintage.
Yep, that's
like a vintage Luke carded
21 back Luke that I got up in store up in Indianapolis. The toy drop.
Nice. Yep. And of course, that's all of the
the vinyl cases.
Yeah.
I've got some pro custom missile launching Boba Fett's. Those are,
Oh, nice.
Those aren't real prototype Boba Fett's in there. Although I do have a friend that I met through another friend. His older brother worked for Kenner back in the day, and he has since sold it, a prototype Boba Fett from back in the day that was his brother's.
Cool.
Got the pictures to prove it. He had some amazing stuff. Some things he donated to the museum in Cincinnati just because it's Kenner history.
Exactly.
There. But yeah.
That's cool. I see you have this little Battlestar Galactica section. It's just
it's crammed in there
off to the side.
It's gonna get room in here for sure. It's gonna get its own proper shelf like it should.
Well, and it's really disappointing because you would think that it would have had more toys, but you kind of realize that it didn't really. Yeah. That wasn't what they were doing toys for. Toys were movies or cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really shows, and that I think that's always been. It would be nice to see if they did something like where they went back and they did the revival of that as toys. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got was it Tom Burgeon? I can't remember his last name. I'm butchering his last name, but he's making the Viper, in 3 3/4 scale, and it's like, oh, that is a thing of beauty.
Yeah,
that's my original droid playset.
Droid Factory.
I have the R2 that goes with that up one shelf when the Jabba the Hutt scene.
Nice. This one was always interesting. It was always interesting because it was kind of like a building set. It was kind of like a play set. Had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's my childhood X-wing that I was talking about playing downstairs.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep, still in good shape.
Is that a carded retro or is that a carded?
No, that's a vintage Han. Yep. Okay. I've stumbled across that
better
baby.
Shot of your Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Is this
there's a lot of
the
stuff on the
everything
table.
This is
Yes,
the
that is
table?
one of the everything tables that I need to spend some time cleaning up and sort stuff out. But my
Yeah,
friend Shabby,
Forcer's Pentor. He's just there, and his chariot's over
yeah,
there. He's falling
I'm
off.
like, okay, that's cool. I got a Ramen Toys hat that I got from Ace at PowerCon. Um, I've got a Fisher
Pentor
Price
looks like he needs
dragster.
a life alert bracelet currently.
Yeah. Yep. There's a little
That's
bit of
great.
everything. But my buddy Shabby, we commissioned him to build this coffee table for us. And
Oh, that's cool.
so it's got a glass top that's on hinges. And so there's storage inside it. So if I get
Oh,
all that
nice.
stuff in its proper place, I've got yet another display area. Yep.
And then you got your Snake Mountain just sitting over here in front of the fireplace.
Yeah, for now it's gonna come in here, but
Now,
Chris
is
and I,
that the new one, or is that
yeah,
the?
that's the Origins one. Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was Origins one or if that was the Super 7 Classics one.
Oh my gosh, that Super 7 one, that thing's ginormous.
I know, but I can't tell how big your fireplace
Right, I know.
is.
I mean, I finally saw one of those, the Super 7s. I think it was at PowerCon in person, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, it's massive.
It's like it's
Well,
a
I
love
mean,
seat.
it's fitting a 7-inch figure, so it's gonna
Yeah,
be pretty good.
it's gonna have to be big.
All right, so this is your space, folks. This was when GI Joe got so weird.
I know you got like those funky aliens.
Yeah, the alien thing and
the Monstro Viper
went off the rails somewhere, lost its, but it's fine. It's fine. It fits. That's why I say that anything that you really put with Joe, even classified, it's probably going to fit, because at some point, except for people that just think only the comic. I'm giving Lawrence crap right now because only the comic matters. But honestly, G.I. Joe, the cartoon, had some, fatal fluffies.
Right.
First,
they had some wacky stuff.
I mean, they had some in the worms and the mass.
Oh, yeah.
Mass device.
Mass
I mean, there was a bunch of weird.
I love that. Heavy water, here I come.
Yeah, there was so much weird stuff. And you have a glider with the foam intact.
That is a reproduction. I bought that at
Joe
Fest 2 years ago. It was on Sunday. And so, I'd been by that booth several times. And they had their price that they were asking, all show long. And I'm walking by and I kind of just glance and I, nod at the guy, and he goes, you want one. I said, actually, I do. And he was like, I'll cut you a deal. And I'm like, done.
Exactly.
So it was Sunday, people are wanting to wheel and deal a little more.
So they don't have to take it back. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, it's just one more I don't have to take home again. So I'm like, I'm in.
I did homage to that with the hand gliders that they did for Fortnite. I repainted them.
Cool.
I have a Cobra one and I have a G.I. Joe one. Nice. I'm working on a Claw right now. That's my newest project for those, but they're great little easily customizable. Then they unscrew. Pretty cool stuff.
I'll have to check that out because I was just looking at those again. I think they're at Ollie's.
Yeah,
it seems like everybody's posting pictures. Yeah,
it's $3.99. I was like, you know what? For $12, I can get 3 of these and I can be done. Yeah. And here's your, looks like a little Cobra, a little Snow Job.
Yeah, that's a lot of childhood survivors there. Yep.
Your Wolverine tank minus the missile system, looks like.
I think it's just the way I've got it turned. I think Storm Shadow's blocking it. It is there. That's my childhood one.
The RAM must be blocking it. Okay.
But like our childhood Trouble Bubble and Serpentor and all of it, and that's my childhood.
A lot of your toys survived, so that's the good thing.
It took very good care of them. Yep.
And there's your adventure people in the ocean. Or is that Action Force?
That is Action Force. Yeah. So I've recently moved. We'll see that in probably another pick. But yeah, I with those new shelves, I was able to move a lot of Action Force into this room.
It's more Hoth playsets and your
the micro Kenner micros.
Those are the micro sets, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great.
Oh, I love them.
I mean, I wish they would go back and do some of those stuff. That stuff was just
it's good
you
stuff.
could have it was like a portable play set. I mean,
Mm-hmm. And the Hoth sets are very near and dear to me because again, that buddy whose older brother worked at Kenner,
yeah.
the Hoth sets he actually designed back in the day.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm like,
so
that's
it's
even
a personal,
cooler.
it's a personal touch point for you.
Yeah, he's like,
that's cool.
you know, it. His younger brother, he goes, I remember he would bring stuff home and just have it, you know, prototype sitting on the kitchen table when I was little, and I was like, holy smokes, that's cool.
Exactly. Back in the days when they hand sculpted stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now this is an overall shot. Now this is your
Underwater Lego land. Yeah. So now we're in
Underwater
the toy
Lego
room
land.
number 2.
See, I do like the lighting display. It's cool. And everything's kind of got its own little room to breathe kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely. So this is in a big state of flux with the newer cabinets. You can see to the left that 6-foot cabinet that I just built.
Yeah.
So it's, you know.
Now, is that a Dino Riders at the top of this one?
That is Bionatops from late in the line for Masters of the Universe. Okay. And I found him at PowerCon.
I can't see it that well, so I was assuming
it's not a close-up shot.
Toy, it was going to be something else.
It was one of those, like, we were walking into PowerCon, and Leslie's like, so, you know, anything you're looking for? And I'm like, you know what? I'd like to find, like, you know, Bionatops or whatever. And the Eternia Dreams was the first huge booth that kind of slaps you in the face. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, here it is.
It's like, oh, well, that wasn't hard.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that was easy. I mean, it was painful opening the wallet.
See y'all later. I'm good. I can go home now.
Yeah, I'm all good. Everything else is gravy.
I think we've got one. Oh, go back.
Ron Burgundy on the Rambo playset.
You know what? It's still a cool playset.
It's
just
really
as brittle as all get out.
And it has a bazillion pieces, which is why a lot of it's just kind of lumped there. That was a really an impulse buy at Joe Fest this year. I got the vendor had a Silver Pads Grand Slam, and I had to so I have Ron Burgundy, and I'm Burgundy? Like, what am I going to do with Ron? I was like, you know what? For right now, he needs to be hanging off the side of the.
Okay, I was wondering what Ron Burgundy was doing on
with his rifle, and he's got that, you know.
Okie dokie.
It just made me think of the movie, you know, where it's like, wow, that escalated quickly.
Exactly, it did, didn't it? So this is your action force.
Yep. So thanks to guys like Gary Atkins, George Aiken, Stu, Universal Toy Collector, Carol, which is Dragon Reborn. All these fellas have helped me build this Action Force collection. Some as very thankful, grateful gifts. Others purchases from them. So,
I mean,
good stuff.
They were so different, but they're so the same, and it's kind of like that. It's one of those lines that, yes, it eventually became something else, but some of those first vehicles are really innovative and interesting.
Oh, it's really cool what Palitoy did. Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's boxy, but you know what? That was kind of the theme in the 80s, right? It was everything was boxy. Cars were boxy.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they did
really well.
So like the space cruiser in the middle of that shot on the side is if you zoom in, you'll see it's actually the sculpt of the ram gun.
Yeah. Being used on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just neat stuff like that.
So, and of course there's their APC, which is so much better than the APC we got.
Yeah. It's just tricked out inside.
Oh. Exactly. Now here's her Gaucho.
Oh yeah. Luke Reynolds of Reynolds Reviews negotiated that sale for me. Nice. Him and Jammer.
Yeah.
Yep.
let's see, and they were just, it was really, really interesting to see that they would, the small changes that they made, and they made a huge difference. But it's like any of the other, like Joe, for lack of a better word, adjacent,
Mm-hmm.
like the Plastorama stuff and the
Yeah.
Fun School stuff. I mean, yeah, they were Joes, but they were
Mm-hmm.
kind of colored weird, or they, you know, did this thing where they gave it a whole new character just because they colored it.
Right.
So I
This
mean,
is so mind blowing, learning the history of this, that Palitoy and Hasbro both had the same idea and both presented it in the same year at their respective toy fairs as their, hey, we're shrinking 12-inch Joe, and Palitoy says, hey, we're shrinking 12-inch Action Man down to 3
yeah,
3/4 scale because we see what Star Wars is happening with Kenner. And Palitoy was already under license distributing Star Wars.
yeah.
And it's just really cool that they
Well,
both said,
it's
there's
really
something.
interesting that Palitoy Death Star set. That's the cardboard.
Yep.
Then they repurposed it for the Action
Yeah.
Force. I mean, there was so much repurpose in that times. It's people can
Yeah.
complain about it now, but they don't understand that that's the way it's always been. There's always been that repurpose, reuse.
Mm-hmm.
Get the most out of those molds that you can.
Yeah. I've been lucky to meet and chat with Bob Breakin, who was a designer for Palitoy, and thankfully he's shares his knowledge with anybody who's willing to listen. And yeah, he says, the marketing department was like, hey, you only got this tiny little budget. And that's why they were like, okay, we can take that from that and put that with that, and we can come up with something new.
And then, of course,
The
the
enemy
jewel
team.
of the Red Shadows, the Robo Skull. I have one on order from
Yeah, me too. The Robo Skull
Skeletron.
Mark II. Oh, can't
I
wait. That thing is
am,
ginormous.
yeah, I know. I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, I got a Dragonfly. I'll have a hiss in a couple months, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that this is not going to get to us until like mid June, July,
I
August on
think
that,
so. Yeah.
based on how their development has been going. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I did get the Skeledrone, the Assassin Skeledrones. I
Yep.
got some of those. Those are
Yeah,
fantastic.
those are cool.
I went ahead and ordered a couple of the Skeletron figures, the
Mm-hmm.
actual Skeletrons.
Yeah.
I figured,
Yeah, the ones Marauder's doing.
yeah. So I love the red, and I love the Baron Ironblood. I love
Oh, yeah.
the red laser that was Cobra Commander repaint.
Mm-hmm.
There was just so
Black
much.
Major.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's just
They
cool
were
stuff.
just really cool baddies.
Yes. But they had that signature vehicle that was just theirs, and it was so unique. Like, yeah, it's got some, you can touch the, yeah.
I recently got the box for
Cool.
it. Yep. Oh,
Oh,
gonna have to rework the display.
that's all right though. You
Right?
can just
It's
put that
more
right
play.
behind it, give it that nice big old pop.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, some of the stuff is just so good, and you wouldn't think that just a simple recoloring would make that much difference, but some of it's
Yeah, like that
just a simple
the
recoloring.
Panther there, the
Yeah,
recolor of the Vant. It's so
yeah,
striking in that black and yellow SAS team color. It's
that, and this is a
awesome.
repaint of the Wolverine. So I mean,
Yeah.
but even their own vehicles, the stuff that they just made, and the bit and pieces of everything,
Yep.
that were just different. It was very different.
Yeah, that really just it grabs you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
don't know
got
what
the
happened on this picture, but you got a pack rat over here, missiles. But
some
the
Z Force.
Mobat and whatever, I don't know what it's called for Action Force, but just that basic tank is so fantastic. I love that original tank. That was one of my favorite toys, just because it was motorized. Run it and go.
So good to be able to take it out of the driveway or the. Yeah, we didn't take that one even I don't think we even took it into the sandbox. It was more a driveway. Was about as driveway in the grass. Yeah. And
the
so
deep carpet,
yes,
the old shag carpets.
right.
That's where that works great. Works great as the desert. Now are these reproduction?
No, those are all
These boxes.
vintage boxes. I've poured on the cardboard obsession here as of late. So
I can't say anything because all of the boxes for all of my figures are either in the garage or in the attic. Yeah, in boxes. Yeah. So I have boxes in boxes.
Right? Yeah, you gotta
in storage.
Yeah, we all do it. There's no shame.
Yeah,
this is a safe space, Aaron. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. It just and this is your Masters collection.
Yep.
Now is this kind of a mix of Origins and Vintage, or is
exactly?
This
just... Yeah. So I don't know how I messed up the picture. I think
it came out fuzzy. It's all right. It happens. But your Eternia is an original Eternia, but your tracks are probably like everyone else's
broken. If you've watched the video on Chasing 80s, you can watch me in real time.
I watched it. I sweated the whole time you were putting it together.
Yeah, so did I. Oh wow.
I was feeling the anxiety.
So when it moved in here, I was like, I'm not even going to try to put that track back because there's just too much tension on it. The way it's designed, it's it's like glass. It really is. So I need to get just the on eBay you can buy the reproduction track from a guy in France, I think it is, for 100
I'm sure there's somebody that could find the files and print it for you. I'm sure they're probably running around somewhere.
Again, since this is a safe space, I'm gonna I have the Origins Eternia ordered as well. So I'm kind of curious, is that even the same? Will that track mate with that? Not that I want to display both, obviously.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
I want to be able to compare it
to, because I mean, if they were compatible, does that mean people needed to buy more than one? So they
right. Yeah.
But even if they're moderately compatible, you can there's people out there that can 3D scan them and then make corrections and then you can print them off in a 3D printer. But yeah, no, Masters for me was, I remember that 82 Christmas.
Yep.
We had just moved to Oklahoma, had to get away from my dad. And I guess his last big hurrah was to send us a bunch of Christmas presents. So my brother got G.I. Joe, everything that was out in 82 Christmas. And I got Masters of the Universe, everything that was out.
Yeah, the whole.
So I got Castle Grayskull. I got all the characters that were available. And I can still remember playing with those, opening them up, and just that Castle Grayskull alone was a fantastic toy.
Oh my gosh.
It was one of my favorite toys growing up for a long time.
So striking, that sculpt.
Yeah, it was a cool look. And then, of course, you got Snake Mountain and Fright Zone and Slime Pit. And you got all of those nice. Masters of the Universe had great play sets.
They really did. I mean, just some dynamite stuff.
It was just weird stuff. I loved it all. It was great.
I went even more. So you've got Origins figures in there. There's all my vintage is in another cabinet, actually to the right, that cabinet. But Defending Eternia is the knockoffs. It's the KO gang. So that's my new addiction.
You're getting the knockoffs.
It's getting all the weird KO stuff. The Suko. I love it.
Fuerza tees.
Oh my gosh! I almost bought a Fuerza T He-Man at the Xenia, Ohio toy show, but
you do know that Formo is making new ones, right?
No, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, there's new ones running around.
I ended up buying I got the slime cut, the sealed slime cup, with you can feel there's just a little bit still in there.
I'm surprised it's not all desiccated by now.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's got crust on the outside, and Leslie's like, "How much did you pay for that?" And I'm like, "That's not important right now. Just look at that art. Look at isn't that cool?"
It's not important. It's just slime. It doesn't matter that it doesn't work. The funny thing is I think they redid that the slime pit, and I think they used it was like a Harry Potter.
Really?
I think that they used some of that slime pit, and I think the slime for that Harry Potter pit would work too. But man,
I'm gonna have to look
that
that
slime
up.
pit, do not use it on Spike Ore.
No,
Grizzlord.
Oh,
no. Spike Ore was the first lesson. Grizzlord, I knew at that point was not going to happen.
Yeah, it's like
nope. Sorry.
Nope. There's my
vintage power snake. Some of your
yes. Oh yeah, got some Black Star.
Yeah, got a little bit of everything. This
knockoff wrestlers are in there. I mean, it's
what is this everything. Jaguar looking thing up here?
That's I'm trying to think of his name. He's a Black Star as well.
I was just like,
I just they often get thrown in these grab bins, and you're like, oh, something is not like the others. Jing! Exactly. I'll take him for $2, $5.
Exactly. Sometimes that's what it is. It's kind of how toys work sometimes for us. We see something, ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but I know I want it.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's mine. It's coming home with me. And like Oz says, we aren't buying toys. We're preserving art. And in some
Very
ways,
much so, Oz. Yep. And I got to meet Oz at PowerCon, which was awesome.
Yeah. He really got to meet everybody. He was like, wow, okay. But there is a possibility this year we're working on trusting someone with our son, so I may be going to a con.
Cool.
There is a possibility. I'm not saying anything 100% yet. Got to get through my daughter's wedding and see how that goes, and then we'll talk about going.
I feel you. That was us last December.
Yeah, more than an evening. Yeah, my daughter's wedding is in January 3rd and 4th. So the 3rd is she's doing it on a Thursday. I was like, you're doing a wedding on a Thursday, but okay.
Yeah, it's cheaper. I don't blame her.
Yeah, so she's being very reasonable about it, thankfully.
Yeah. Our daughter was too, yeah. So she's like, I'm not getting married on a Saturday. It costs, this venue's $2,000 more on a Saturday. Yeah. And I'm like, huh? She's like, don't worry, we're not doing it on a Saturday.
My daughter was smart about that. She decided that, well, we'll just do it here. And then we'll do it on a Thursday. I was like, okay, that's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Yep.
But yeah, no. I'll be happy when that's over with. And then we can, figure out what to do from there. So there is a possibility.
She came over last night, and we were gonna go out to dinner because they're newlyweds and poor. And she said something because she's got my sense of humor, and I'm like, oh, you're being cocky. I was like, why don't you go to your room? She goes, I can't, because it's all this now.
It's toys.
Yeah.
Where would you like me to go in it?
Right.
Play with my Legos.
Like, yeah. Yeah. It's like, can we please go build something together?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hilarious because when my daughter, when she came home, she literally only lives like 30 minutes away, but I haven't seen her since her brother's birthday, and her birthday was the 19th, so she came over on the 20th. Last Friday. And yeah, so it was nice to see her, but you would think with only being 30 minutes away she would come over more often, but
yeah,
when they fly the nest, they don't, you're not important anymore, right? And
for a while,
like, Dad, why do you want to hang out with Dad? Dad's boring.
It's like, come here, give me a hug. I want a long hug.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now what what is that?
That is I found that at Route 68 in Xenia, Ohio. They have their own toy shop. They also sponsor the big, great Ohio toy show. But yeah, in the Motu cabinet was this. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. And the guy, working, he's like, you're into weird, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And he goes, doesn't get any weirder than that. And I'm like, he's riding like a seahorse, and you push it down, and it's one of those, where it sets up
Oh,
and it'll
nice.
just shoots off.
Yeah.
Works perfect. But I'm like, I gotta have it. And he was like, yeah, you do.
It's
it's just
great.
so
It's great,
weird.
though. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. It's, yet again, you didn't even know you needed it. And, the price was right.
And it's so weird. And you just like,
It's a great talking piece. Like, what in the Sam heck is that?
exactly. They're, you know what? They had some weird stuff, but, occasionally somebody comes along with something that's even weirder than what was made. And you're just like, ooh, okay. I kind of see what you're doing there.
Yeah, the knockoff companies were like, here, Mattel, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how weird we can make it.
Yeah, there's the Mexican bootlegs that I bought off my friend Masters Maniac in Mexico. So those are blow molded Panther and
Wow.
Battle Cat.
Okay.
And
I was
then you've
wondering
got
if maybe that was like,
yeah, it's complete. It weighs nothing. The Panther. He's just
wow.
whoosh. Yep.
Okay, somehow we got back to an X-wing and
Palatoy Death Star that I got at Star Wars Celebration this past year. Yep. That was
cool.
my buddy VTR Dave helped me find that.
Buck Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So this was, I kind of, again, you have a spare second to think, like, when did I really start collecting again? Because I took a hiatus, except for like Lego. That Lego always was kind of ongoing, but the carded Buck Roger was one of the first things I started to go after on eBay when it, really wasn't a thing. They were very inexpensive.
Well, I can imagine, because there probably wasn't a whole lot of demand. But then again, there's most people. It's only people our age that are going to know who Buck Rogers is.
Yeah, they're like, huh? And then the Eagle One from Space 1999 came from my buddies that Keep On Collecting.
Nice.
And speaking of more Space 1999, there's the Martin Landau Mego doll. I bought that, and the little comm belt, and their little phaser laser from Lester Vintage Toys. If you watch Toy Shop on Tours, their shop. Yeah, we went to Lester and spent the afternoon there before we met up with Bob Breakin, but met a ton of friends at the toy shop, and we just kind of took it over. It was great. They unlocked cabinets, and we're like, we had free reign. We were on the honor system, and good time.
And there's some Tron figures there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, got most of those.
You have a black hole book there.
Yeah, I've got.
I'm confused about that connection.
Oh, no connection. Just like just putting some sci-fi stuff together in a safe spot, so it doesn't get.
Just like
no, there's no.
Am I missing some black hole figure somewhere. I see Tron.
It's one of those where like I'm sorting, and it's like, okay, sci-fi. Let's just put that over there for now.
Okay, now what in the world is this
advanced
tiger head?
Yeah, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Chimera. Is it the Chimera?
I'm trying to remember what his name is, but yeah, with the D&D figures, and there's also some Imperial, like that dragon's an Imperial, rubbery old school. So's that
the Fortress
that guy
of
with
Fangs,
the saddle, and then of course, Fortress of Fangs. It's not complete. I'm still working on that when I can find some bits, super cheap, which is laughable because those words don't go together. I need Fortress of Fangs cheap. Fortress of Fang parts cheap. You got any? And it's like, you got a couple $100. I probably have the jail cell you need, and you're like, oh,
exactly.
But
sometimes it's the part. If you're better off sometimes waiting to buy the complete.
Right, you get parted
because
to
the
death.
Parts will eat you alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons I try not to go back.
Right.
Because honestly, I would get in trouble. I would get in trouble really fast if I went back. I did go back and I got a few figures, G.I. Joe figures, but I put them back on cards. For my wall of cards.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's some really cool recard.
And yeah. Beggars Canyon Toys. So they do
Mhm.
great, fantastic stuff, and the bubbles work. But I recarded Law and Order. I recarded Mindbender,
Nice.
Dial Tone, and I carded a Mail Away Sergeant Slaughter. They had
Oh
a card
yeah.
for it, so it just looks good, and I like the
Yeah.
way it looks. And that's just me. I like that feeling of when I walk into that room, it's kind of like going back to the toy aisle.
Exactly. When the pegs were full and
Exactly.
varied, and you know, service merchandise. I firmly remember my mom and dad going to the showroom side that, it had the jewelry store and all the
Mm-hmm.
other home goods stuff. And then on the other side was toys and bikes. And they were like, okay, you guys go over there and behave. You can pick out one figure. We're going to be over here. Don't, don't fight with your brother. And you'll both walk out of here with the figure. And we're like, all right, yeah. We're down with this, but
Yeah, and then it's analysis paralysis on the aisle
right,
because you're like, I
yeah,
only get one figure.
like, oh my gosh, we have like an hour to decide. I don't know what to get.
Exactly. Okay, now this is Action Force
Yep, we've
and
got
Classified.
Valaverse and Classifieds. Yep.
Mask.
Yeah, that Boulder Hill came from Luke Reynolds. He gifted that to me. I couldn't believe it.
Nice.
We went up to his hometown for the afternoon and stayed the night, and we were having some awesome lunch with him and his lovely wife Rachel and their son. And he disappears and then comes back like 5 minutes later holding that Boulder Mountain. And
Nice.
He's like, here you go. And I'm like, what? And he was like, you don't have it. And I'm like, no, I do not have it. And he was like, this is yours. And I'm like, what is going on?
Nice. Yeah, Mask is one of those toys that came out kind of when I was getting out of toys as a kid. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't. I remember seeing the cartoon.
I think they were cool. I think they were different. The engineering on them is still top notch.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to find a whole lot of places that are going to be able to do that engineering, especially not for a $10 or $15 toy that some of them won't.
Yep.
Just amazing engineering for that price.
Yeah, Kenner was firing on all cylinders with those. So cool.
And the cartoon wasn't bad either. So,
And the Rhino, the big rig, Anthony Whitehead, who is, around in the community,
mm-hmm.
He snuck that into a box. Kind of same deal. He's like, well, you don't have it. And I'm like, every time do you come to my house, do you sit there and like make some sort of list of stuff I don't have? And he was like, maybe. And I'm like,
that's the good thing about the community is that we kind of look out for each other. And,
it really is I send stuff to people all the time. I've got like 4 boxes I need to get posted. But
I've got a spare one of these that is, I bought 2. And I bought 2 with the intent because I know someone was going to need one. So I bought an extra one and, he'll be getting it. And he doesn't want it for 2 weeks because he's going out of town for vacation. Mm-hmm. He goes, don't ship it. Don't ship it.
Don't send it yet. There'd be nobody there.
And then I sent off a Moss Man today because the person couldn't find it in their area and they'd been looking quite a bit. I was like, you know what? I had found 8.
Wow.
I walked into the Walmart. I don't normally go to this Walmart, but I walked into the Walmart. I went back to the toys just on a lark. And there is Crimson Guards retro card 5. I already have him, so I don't need him. Because I got 2. I got one to put on the wall, and I got one that I put in my display as the Crimson Guard officer.
Okay.
Because he looks different than the other Crimson Guards that I have. But they had them, and then they had 8 Mossmen, just like 4 deep, 2 trays. I'm just like,
wow.
Okay, so I go on to Instagram and I message the group. I'm like, does anybody need a Mossman still?
My buddy Rob in Texas, he did the same thing to our little group. He was like, anybody need? And I'm like, I do. I've never even seen a Mossman except online.
Yeah, it's so distribution is still so messed up. It's
just ridiculous. All over the place. And then
I was just shocked to see anything other than Baroness or
Lady
J on the pegs. when I walked
Yeah.
in. I was just like, where am I at? Because this is
Yeah. Huh?
Oklahoma. We don't have this crap. We get it like 6 months after the fact.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, no, it was an interesting day. Okay, now this is
This is
Action
my
Man or Adventure Team.
it's Scuba catch-all shelf
Oh, okay.
with a little bit of Action Man, just again because that's that is an original Action Man way in the back by the Thunderball Bond record, because I love that art. um, and he came with his. I got that at Leicester Vintage too. Alan Dawson, who's a big Action Man collector in the UK, and they run some little conventions there. I was like, teach me your ways. Like I'm going in reverse. I know
Yeah.
Action Force, but take me into Action Man. I'm like, I really like, because they had a couple, and I'm like, which should I get? Like, and so he helped me.
Very much like G.I. Joe Adventure Team. I mean, it was kind of that parallel kind of styling. Now, the vehicles are definitely weird. They're definitely, you can definitely see the age on those. So
Got the
late 60s, early 70s kind of stuff. You're like, ooh, okay.
Adventure Team sub.
Yeah. Okay, the Dino
Hunters.
Okay.
And then the Imperial dinosaur that they modeled, scaled down for the Hasbro offering. I found that Imperial toy at Joe Fest for $10 this past year.
Nice.
Yeah. But I got the Dino Hunter. Why is it so? Because it's just so wacky.
Yeah.
Again, another good, fun talking point.
Well, there's so many different toys. If you really think about it, there's just you can get into the knockoffs, but you can also get into, these were just toys that they mass produced, and sometimes they made stuff that was just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks.
Exactly. Yep.
Sectars, good example of that. And Humanoids, another good example of that. They're just trying everything and anything.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get some weird. Now this is your Action Force headquarters, the repaint.
The Z Force headquarters, so good. I bought that online from Leicester Vintage like a year ago, and they were. I said, because it was they were not shipping it. It was like local pickup only, and I said, I'm coming to the UK. I will pick it up, and they were like, okay then. I'm like, here's I want it. Here's the money. Boop. And they were like, okay, we'll set it aside for you. So when I got there, they were like, we've got your headquarters, and they had some other bits set aside for me. But
I do like the camo pattern better than the silver.
Oh, it's so cool. And then
the red kind of pops.
Yeah, the red pops on it, and the Palatoy stickering is just incredible. I mean, they went above and beyond all the extra controls, and
it's just I like they took something that was existing and they did something different with it.
Mm-hmm. Gave it a good twist.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it works out, and sometimes it's a nightmare. you don't want to wake up from it.
Right. I'm still trying to figure out where to put it, because that is such a long base, especially with the helipad. It's like, where is this gonna live in the grand scheme of things? So I'm thinking maybe a floating shelf somewhere, and it gets its own.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, it kind of needs its own display spot, right?
The really neat thing, if you go back one pick to the helipad, next to the. So if you flip that helipad over, I asked Bob Breakin to sign it to me, and he did.
Wow, cool.
Which was awesome. But I gave him a Kenner catalog, so we got to have lunch. Nick from Action Pop Dad and Alan Dawson worked behind the scenes, knowing that we were going to Leicester and that I wanted to go to Colville, which is right next door to Leicester, and see the old Palatoy site, which is it's a community center now. So those two turkeys got with Bob Breakin and were like, hey, he's coming over, and we're also going to have a lot of other people. Would you mind giving a tour of the factory site? And Bob, being as gracious as he is, he's like, sure, no problem. And he met us at the pub for lunch. I was sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to order. And I look up and I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, that's Bob Breakin. Wow, he's having lunch at the same restaurant we are. And I was like, Bob. And he was like, you must be Scuba. And I was like, stood up, was like, oh, it's such a pleasure to meet you. It was toy royalty, but he's just a class act. But in talking with him, I said, Bob, do you have, because he has tons of paperwork from the old Palatoy days. He's got tons and tons of stuff. And I said, do you have a Kenner toy catalog from, like the toy fairs? And he said, you know what? That's something I do not have. And I said, you will now. And I ran out to the car and I packed one with me when we went to England, just used it as trade fodder or something. I just had it with me. So I brought it in and we spent lunch, all of us, this big long table, with like 20 people, and we're all eating our food and having beers. And Bob's flipping through the catalog going, we designed that and Kenner borrowed it. We borrowed this from Kenner and used that, and all this back and forth because they were sister companies under General Mills. And it was just an amazing afternoon. But then he goes, well, I need you to sign this. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he pulls his pen out. He's like, to Bob. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this. I'm like, no, you're not going to sell this on eBay, are you? He's so classy. The man knows no bounds. He's just so generous with his time and knowledge. And yeah, good stuff.
So are there any toys that you don't have in your collection from your childhood that you're still wanting?
That I had from childhood? Yes. The space Lego monorail set. I would love to have that. I always wanted it as a kid because of the fact that it was motorized kind of blew my mind, and I would love to find that. It was 3 weekends ago was the toy show in Ohio, and they had like it wasn't the original space monorail. It was like the next version that they did. It was still space, but it was more instead of that blue and yellow that we knew from the 70s, it was more like Blacktron, green and black. And
yeah, they started changing the colors.
Yeah,
just kind of differentiated.
But a guy had it in box, complete, and it was during the Friday night preview, and I had no idea really what I was in store for because there's 7 buildings of toys at this place. Yeah, so if you have, I put up the toy hunt. It's on our channel, and I was not prepared for the volume and actually people wheeling and dealing, like getting good buys. And so I pretty much blew through my cash, in the first couple buildings, and then I run into this guy, and I'm like, "How much is that?" He tells me, and I'm like, "Ooh," and I'm like, you take PayPal? And he was like, nope, cash only. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay. So we'll wake up Saturday morning, leave the hotel, go straight to a bank that's next door, pull out, more fundage for the day. And that's my mission, right? Like they opened at 9. I get over there about 9:30, and I go straight to that building, and to that guy. And as I walk in, I look at the table. It was gone. It had sold Saturday morning. I'm like, no. It's that. I'm fine.
Man.
Hopefully, I mean, I would rather have the old school blue version anyway. So, first world
maybe
problem.
Maybe it was just not meant to be right there.
Exactly.
And
it's
maybe
like
you'll find the other one.
Yeah, that's the fun of the hunt.
Exactly. Sometimes I do find it when I got back into collecting in 2022, I got back in because I found G.I. Joe Classified.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's kind of spiraled into this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
that was your gateway back in.
It's the drug that started it.
Yep.
It's where the problem began. But
for me, it was finding that vintage Castle Grayskull again after so many years, and not because that got sold off at a churchyard sale when and Craig and I, my brother and I, we were okay with that.
Yeah.
The old, you're not playing with it. And we're like, no, we're into G.I. Joe. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
fine. And seeing that for sale in a vintage toy shop again, I was like, wow. And Leslie's like, you having a moment there? And I'm like, uh-huh.
Yes.
And she's like, okay, are you gonna get it? Because she's great like that. And I'm like, I think I am gonna get that. And the guy's like, yeah, it's just missing one of the cardboard pieces, but you can track that down. And I'm like, I'm in. And I bought that, and it just
Started from there.
Yep, lit the fire under me.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I've come to collecting and away from collecting. So I was still kind of messing around with toys till I was about 17.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really buy any from the time I was about 12 to 17 because after 87, Joe started getting weird, and then
it's like,
that
I
was
don't know you.
My last toy line.
Right.
My last 3 figures were Psych Out, Jinx, and Big Boa.
Okay.
And that's funny that I can remember that.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's because I remember buying those figures. We got them on a trip to Florida. We were going to visit my mom's boyfriend who moved to Florida. It was a weird trip. That's all I got to say on that one. But I got those 3 figures.
We got some Joe's figures out of it.
Yeah, I got 3 figures out of it because we were going to Florida. It was, something to do. But I still had those toys, and I still set them up in an attic or somewhere in where I could still, go up and occasionally mess with them.
Yeah.
Play with them, do whatever. Because I had Thundercats, I had the Cat's Lair, I had Snake Mountain, I had all the play sets for Masters. And of course, I was one of those weird kids, and everything played together. I just assumed that the Thundercats and He-Man came in from some other planet and, invaded the G.I. Joe universe.
Yeah. I love it.
So it's kind of one of those things that even as, up to 17, I still had most of my toys. Now, when we moved in at 17 with my mom's then boyfriend, I had to give up a significant portion of my toys. So I donated my Thundercats and all of my Masters of the Universe figures, my Transformers. So the only thing that stayed was Star Wars and G.I. Joe. Now, I didn't have a whole lot of Star Wars vehicles. I just had the one. I didn't, I had mostly just figures for Star Wars. But G.I. Joe, I still had all of my vehicles, all of my figures from, some of them were in good shape. Some of them were,
well played with.
My 82 G1s were a little bit rough. I mean, they were used.
Yeah, they saw some serious deployments.
They saw some time. Yeah, they saw some warfare, some toy fair, as we'll call that. But yeah, no, it's interesting because I came back to collecting as a young adult because of Power of the Force 2. That first, it had been so long, and we got
the drought.
Star Wars figures for the first time in forever. And yeah, they were weird, and they were, husky and buff, and it was
know which way to
but they were new Star Wars figures, and I could get all of them because I had adult money.
Right? Yeah,
we have adult, and I didn't have kids yet, so adult money plus the access. There it happens.
You're like,
so that's when the second collection happened. So we started with Star Wars, went to things like Exo Squad, and then X-Men.
Oh, cool.
I had X-Men toys out the wazoo, and 25 Wolverines, 30 Cables, and similar to what we're dealing with McFarlane toys currently, where we have 25 Batman per month.
But I need him.
There's one a week just in case.
That's the gold label.
Yeah, it's a gold label, and then you get the platinum label that's Jokerized.
Have they made a Scuba Bat?
Not yet. Well,
not yet.
No.
Okay.
I guess technically you could classify the hazmat Batman.
Oh, I remember. I remember seeing like that. Kind of a respirator.
Yeah. So you qualify that one. You could probably get away with it. Just need to find flippers.
I think I can
But
make that happen.
it's interesting to look how we all kind of, some people gravitate away and then come back, and then some of us,
Mhm.
there's some people that I've talked to, and this is episode 26, so 25 people besides yourself, including yourself, I guess. Because technically I was the first one where it was all about me, but
Yeah,
nobody wants to hear me talk again about
that's
myself.
not true.
Not really. But when they come back, it's kind of that interesting. There's a reason why that particular brand or whatever it is that they start with,
Mm-hmm.
it was a really big touch point for them. So Joe was the last toy line that I collected as a kid. It's interesting that
Yep.
at 48,
That's
it was the
what's
toy line that got me back in. And now, of course, it's snowballed. There's Mythic and Cosmic Legions. There's a walk. It is.
Yeah. I
There's a
bought my
whole.
first Animal Warriors at Joe Fest this year.
They're
And I'm like,
fantastic figures. They really
this
are.
is really cool.
I got into that one. I'm liking the Jada Street Fighter
Mm-hmm.
figures. Those are really nice too.
Those look really neat.
They're really, they're really posable. I mean, I'm talking really posable, balanced well. You don't have bulky things that make it fall over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice. I have a little bit of Transformers in my collection, and Masterverse is my He-Man touch point rather than Origins, because I wanted something a little bigger and a little bit, it would look really out of scale with having the short Origins figures. But I do have some Origin stuff. It's just in the closet, never to be seen again. And of course, I've got
deep storage.
Storage. And then I've got my Gargoyles collection. That's just the Gargoyles in the box, because the wings are so big I can't pull them out, and they don't look right without the wings. And so they just stay in the closet too, at the top, mocking me.
Mocking me.
Mocking me.
I'd like to stretch my wings if I could.
Exactly. But I'm so big, you'd have to hang me from the ceiling and pray that I don't fall on you.
Right. Yeah.
So you came back to collecting, and it was He-Man that got you back in. Now, how long have you been back collecting?
It was like the start of 2018 where I really fired back up. My parents, they collect antiques. And so they were like, hey, you wanna come with us down to the antique and toy mall? And I was like, yeah, all right. So on a Saturday, I think it was Haley our daughter had been with them multiple times, and she'd always come home with some cool treasure. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go. And she's like, oh, Dad, you're going to love it. And we went, and that definitely, it was at the time, maybe about 80% toys and 20% antiques, as they're phasing that out. There's still just a little bit, but it's almost 99% toys and just that little bit of 1% antiques. But yeah, we went back again very soon because I was like, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. Kind of got the juices. And then Leslie and I went back, and that's when I ran at Castle Grayskull, and I was like, oh, here we go.
So, does Scuba have any collection rules? Because I have some collection rules. My hard rule, and this is the inflexible one, unless something. I mean, this is pretty much my set in stone one. It cannot cost more than my first car.
All right.
If it costs more than my first car, I need to really think about whether or not I really want it, or if I really need it. Because at some point, there has to be a limit to what I would want to spend on something. And that's just for a singular item. Now, if it was like let's say it's an all-in for something, that's a different story.
Right.
The Armies of Ashmore Kickstarter, I went all in on that one. And, that was more than my first car. But I got all of the blank figures so I can do customs with them.
Oh,
and
nice.
I got all the figures in the line. So at the time, so it wasn't like I was
one singular.
It's not one item. So
Yeah.
the one item cannot be more than that first car.
I like your
Why
caveat.
don't you want the cat's lair? Because it's more than the first car. That's why I'm not getting the cat's lair.
I'd be lying if I said I had rules. I really don't have any rules. Like I said, we're at a place in life where we're empty nesting. We're dual income, and our kid is fly
Blown away.
free, but
Yeah,
she's still
exactly.
close to love on, and I that's it's a fun place to be. I don't take it for granted at all, but I was talking with like retro blasting Michael, and he was like, you just like fall into deals, don't you? And he's not wrong. It really seems to be right place at the right time.
Wow.
You look at that. Oh, what'd you pay for that flag? I got it from what is now a very good friend of mine for a very ridiculously good price.
Yeah.
Nowhere near anything that you might see today or even a year ago. It's those kind of buys where it's like, yeah, this might on eBay look like you spent what? And be like, I'm hunting in the trenches, physically out there grabbing a lot of this, the boxes and whatnot. So that's where I'm able, Jeff Barker with the Eternia. Yeah. He found that out in Idaho. And he just happened to show a photo of this up and coming toy store where the guy was like, yeah, you can come in. We're not really open yet, but there's stuff in the back. And he just had some snapshots of the back of house. And I was like, that's an Eternia tower sticking out. And he was like, what's that? And I'm like, hold on, I'll send you. It's this, And so he called the guy and he's like, it's mostly complete. And I'm like, well, if it's mostly complete, what's the most, that you're asking? And we did a deal. And so it's just been very lucky, blessed to personally stumble onto deals or friends helping out with good prices. But I try to pay it forward too. Chad from It's Chad, he was looking for a Defiant, and I found most of one at a local shop for a really good price. And Leslie's like, you're going to buy that, right? And I was like, yeah, probably. And she's like, you should definitely get that. And so got it home, and it's just sat, in the basement, like, hello. And then I talked to Chad, and he's like, yeah, I'm really, rounding out my Joe collection, and Defiant's something I'd like to get. And I was like, hold that thought. And I sent him all these videos of it, and this is what's missing. This is what's, broken and needs to be fixed or replaced. And he's like, I'm in. And I'm like, okay, you're driving to Joe Fest this year. We're driving to Joe Fest. Let's meet up. And, carried it out to his car. So it was fun to strike a deal and pay it forward, to somebody else, and not try to gouge your fellow friend collector, like, oh, well, I found it for this, so I'm gonna have to get. You're like, this is exactly what I have in it, and you need to have it because you're gonna love on it just like I love on the Eternia or the flag.
And that's one of those things. It's like when I go out and I get something for somebody, it's like, I just want you to pay me what I paid for it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, not looking to like,
to get rich.
I made $10 on that. No.
Yeah, when I started selling my Action Force collection, they were like, my modern Action Force, not vintage. If I had vintage, it would not be sold. But when I started selling it, people were like, prices are good. I was like, I'm just trying to get back what I paid. If I get a little bit less than what I paid, that's fine too.
Right.
I mean, exactly. I'm not trying to gouge you just because somebody wants to charge you $300 for the figure. I'm just going to charge you what I paid for the figure.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's just whatever I paid for that figure plus shipping.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's good karma.
if you find joy with it, it makes you happy. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
It's one of
And
those things.
people remember that you're a solid stand-up guy and friend.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, next time I'm out hunting and I see something that you might, I'm gonna like, hey, do you have this? Because I'm looking at it right now. You know.
Yeah. And that's the good thing about this community is we find those people that we connect with, and they're there to support. We're there to support each other. It isn't just about the toys, though. That's the
No,
best.
it's not. I mean, funerals,
It's
weddings,
yep. It's
having a tough time
struggling
because
with whatever
you're
you
turning
need
50.
somebody. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'll be turning 50 in June, so yeah, right around Joe Fest time, too.
Nice.
So that's why that's the possibility of going to Joe Fest. We'll see.
Cool.
Well, that's the goal.
I hope that.
I'm hoping it happens. If it doesn't, it is what it is. So, your top lines. What toy line for you are your top 3?
My top 3:
All
Star
time.
Wars. Yeah,
Okay.
Star Wars, and then Joe Action Force. I lumped together. I'm cheating.
No,
With those, but
technically we can
I'll
call them
allow it.
they're the same line.
Right.
They're the
So
same line.
same line, same but different. And then 3 would be Motu. Yep. And
So what is it about toys for you that makes them something that you want to collect? What is it about toys? Why toys? I mean,
why? Yeah, why not?
we're grown men. We could collect anything. We could collect cards. We could collect coins. We could collect spoons. We could collect,
Yeah,
lint, I guess.
bourbon just got too expensive. That's part of the problem. And that's it's honest truth. I was collecting bourbon for quite a while, and then the prices just went bananas, and then and you couldn't find this or that, and it was like, oh, the heck with it. You know, not worth the effort, and that's so I wasn't spending money on buying nice bourbon, which I liked to share with friends. It wasn't my precious. And I'm like, hey, you're over at the house. Let's you wouldn't have that by chance. Be like, well, yes, I would. Let's doink doink doink.
Yeah,
because that's just fun, just like sharing toys. And so yeah, that what I was spending on bourbon, I switched to spending on toys, and it's definitely getting that stuff that you never had as a kid. Like we were talking earlier, we're a product of the collect it all,
yeah, exactly.
that mass marketing. I'm in.
There's a reason they put the checklist in the toys, kids.
Exactly. Be like, we lived and died by those paper catalogs. What's new? Oh, circle it.
Exactly.
Maybe Santa, please.
Mom, Dad, this is what I want.
Yeah.
The Sears catalog and the JCPenney Christmas catalogs and
best
service merchandise catalog. Those things,
like
they had them all toys all set up in dioramas, and they just
we were already play into that. You can do this at home if you buy these.
Exactly. That was so I missed that kind of thing. I got we got in a Amazon catalog.
Mm-hmm.
For the Christmas toys, and got one in from Target, and
I just flipped through the Target one, and I was like,
they just make me sad. I mean, there's just
like there's this for this
picture
price.
Of the figure. Wow, thanks. It's so pedestrian, I guess.
Yeah,
that's the word I could use for it.
It's not. As a kid, it's not playing to your creative juices. It's just kind of.
If your marketing is that uninteresting, it's no wonder a lot of the kids are kind of gravitating away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and when you don't have properties, movies, TVs, cartoon shows to support these, it's like no kidding.
And well, we're also getting away from a lot of places you can get away from ads, so they're not seeing the ads like we did. I mean,
Very
we
true.
watched
Yeah.
we watched a 30-minute advertisement interspersed
Yeah,
with
right.
more advertisements.
Right. Yeah. You watched your Joe cartoon, which had commercials for those vehicles, and you were like, yeah.
Exactly. So
And
we
now
were
back to G.I.
we
Joe.
were programmed and sold to, and it was we all did that. But they miss that now. Now they can
Hmm.
watch an entire season of a show in a day, and
Yep. In a blink of
it's
an
on
eye,
to the
binge it.
next
It's
thing.
gone. Yep.
Yeah. So it's interesting now, definitely. So does one, let's say that something changes within the lore of a toy that you've collected, say like Star Wars. Star Wars reinvents itself every few years,
Mm.
realistically. It's just kind of how Star Wars has
Sometimes
been.
more often.
Yeah, it just depends on which direction the wind's blowing sometimes. Does that kind of stifle your appeal for that line, or does it really matter as long as it's a cool figure?
It definitely doesn't kill my love for the vintage lines. I don't know why I said plural, vintage line. Um, it depending on the show or what have you, yeah, that definitely affects whether I want some of those figures or none of those figures. I'm very, if you Book of Boba Fett, I'm like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. It had a few good moments, in my opinion, but it was not like, oh my gosh. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll take Boba and Fennec Shan, and other than that, I'm good. Um,
And that's kind of how it is with a lot of things, right? We kind of
just
I'm
pick and
I'm
choose.
very picky and choosy on my Mythic Legions
Hmm.
because that's a deep line that can get you in a
That
lot
is
of trouble really quick.
super deep. That I was blown away. That's really something. I don't have any, but just seeing the booth at PowerCon and the horde of people, buying their product, which was mind blowing. But seeing them all displayed, right? I mean, I was like a moth to the case. Wow, look at
They're
that.
it's, they're great and beautiful figures. This is a custom that I painted for a Cosmic Legion.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was gray when it started.
And it looks
This
so
is
good
a
with the purple and the teal.
this is a
Ah,
custom head that I painted. If it'll click in there, come on, camera, work with
there
me.
we
So,
ah,
but I did that custom head to go with this, and then I got this other figure in, and this other head pops on perfectly and looks great. So
sweet.
now I'm stuck with this head that I got to figure out where I'm going to put it. But that's kind of how it works for me.
Uh-huh.
This is what I do with my toys because I do customs, I do dios,
Yeah,
obviously
because
do
you're
actions.
still printing right now, aren't you? The Bivouac
Um,
cot.
yeah, it's done printing, but it looks like I'm going to have to redo it because it
Oh
looks horrible.
no.
It happens. I didn't waste that much with it. Luckily, it was a short print. So, um, yeah, no, I do that too. So, is there anything that you want to do with your toys that you don't currently?
I definitely want to build more dioramas. I just took a look at um, the Book of Boba Fett throne room set
Hmm.
that I had it on order, and then I thought, and I canceled it. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, I ordered two. You want to open one and monkey with it? Just to experience it." And I'm like, "Sure." So I did. I've shot a little video that we'll probably throw up here soon. But in seeing that, um, again, it's that 3 3/4 scale. Play
Hmm.
set's appealing. It's tugging at those Kenner heartstrings that I have. But I'm also like, if I took a weekend or a nice long Saturday with no other commitments and got the foam and really sat down and did it, it's nothing that you couldn't build on your own. And I find that very appealing. That Cobra sub I did that ages ago as just a kind of a really easy custom, but to
Yeah.
scratch build something is very appealing. And I want to be able to do that more often, I think. Um,
It for me, it's one of those things that I use to decompress. It's a lot like for you hunting is. For me, because I'm here. When my son goes to sleep, I'm going to go do my customs. I'm going to do my painting. I'm going to do my, building the diorama pieces.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dioramas make it to the kitchen table for a week or two.
There might be
They're
things on our kitchen table.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they're just a little big to fit in the garage shop area. Just because, it is. It's fine. It's fine. We'll just eat around it. We're fine.
Yeah, we'll eat around it, and it'll be good.
There's only 4 of us here. We have a 6-person table. We're fine.
It's perfect.
I can take up 2
space.
Not a big deal. But yeah, no, it's one of those things that I use toys very much to manage the day-to-day stress that I deal with. It helps me to stay level.
Yeah, grounded.
Yeah. So, is there any vintage line that you would like to see redone today with modern aesthetics?
We touched on it earlier, to see Battlestar Galactica done up. That would be pretty cool in a 6-inch scale, or Buck Rogers in a 6-inch scale. That would be wicked.
I'd like to see that. Tron and
yeah.
I'm so glad we're getting Crystar.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we get more. I know,
Yep.
Not a whole lot of people know that one, but that was
so
one of those
cool.
lines that just look cool because it's translucent.
Yeah.
Sucker for translucent figures.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, when you look at a figure and you say this figure has to come home with me, what is it that draws you to that figure?
Far often it is some sort of weird sci-fi property that maybe I hadn't even thought about. Obviously I've collected heavily what I knew and grew up with, but like upstairs in our bedroom, I have Matt Mason, with his moon base set.
Yeah.
That's from the 60s, but
it
is freaking cool. And I stumbled upon that. A buddy had it. Actually, it's the same buddy that I bought the flag from. He was like, and we'll send each other pictures, like, did you find anything cool? Yeah, check this out. Oh, wow, that's really neat. And so he sends me a picture of the space station, and he's got the box with it. And he goes, hey, I bought this at a yard sale. He goes, anybody interested in this? And I was like, yeah, me. I didn't. If you'd asked me 2 minutes before Matt called me, are you into Matt Mason? Who? No.
Yeah.
What? But he's like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, ooh, space.
Exactly. Something different, something cool. Give it to me.
Yeah. So it really is that sci-fi thing that's
one of the things we run into as collectors, and it happens to all of us, whether they admit it or not. Buyer's regrets for more something that you bought and you're just like, why did I do that? Clearance for me is that kind of that you get me in a store and it's clearance. I've gotten better because now I do this thing where I walk around with the figure for at least a few minutes and I talk to myself onto whether or not I really
what am I gonna do with this?
There was a time there that like every time I would walk into Target, the clearance aisle was evil, and it was like there was like 3 or 4 figures coming home with me, and then right now you should in my shop area in my garage, I probably have 20 figures, 15 of which are GI Joes that are, I bought on clearance.
That you bought on clearance. It
is, and I bought them with the intent to do something with them, but they're still sitting there. So yeah,
staring at you.
I'm sure I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that I know it. A-Team. That stuff.
Ooh.
is so fragile. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, I paid really good money for this. And it's just like you achoo. And it's like kink. I mean,
Well, I mean,
the
it's
fighter jet.
Remco, right? Wasn't it
Do what?
Remco that did 18?
Yeah. And it's just
Yeah.
the plastic they used is like tissue paper.
Yeah.
And I knew it buying it, but I was like, oh, it's A-Team. It's cool. And I'm like, but you can't breathe on it. It's like, what do I do with it now? I'm tired of fixing it. It's like, oh, plastic weld. Let me go get it. Like, dang it. All I was trying to do was put the missile back on the wing and it dink.
Yeah, exactly. That's the frustrating part sometimes with vintage. Even doing like when I'm doing a custom and it, the waist snaps.
Mm.
When you're trying to get it apart, you're just like, oh, great. Okay, starting over.
I also regret buying like vintage Motu that the leg bands have really given up the ghost and need to be replaced because that's a fool's errand. Even with those he bands, that's
Well, I know
painful.
that Go Figure's got some stuff that he prints off to do it.
Yeah, Adam's fix. We're gonna be chatting. Yep.
Because his
way better.
There. Yeah, it seems like it works a little better and it's a little more stable too.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that all of us do as collectors is anything, and that's another one of those things, kind of like to the buyer's remorse, is kind of, do you ever get to the point where you experience kind of burnout, where you're kind of done with your toy interests for a little while?
Yeah, I think it goes in spurts. And there's no rhyme or reason as to the period that it goes in, but I'll lay off toy hunts for 3-4 weeks easy, and that seems to be like one. It's good for your wallet,
Yeah,
and like
that's always the primary, right?
Right, in real life happens. That's always the rule: is you take care of real life responsibilities, and then the silly stuff can be bonus.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think if it was, it's one of those like, oh, if you won the lottery, what would you do? Would you quit work and just would you open up your own toy shop and would you just hunt toys all day every day? And I'm like, I don't think I would, because it wouldn't be special. Then it wouldn't. I don't think it would have the same luster to it if that's what you did all day, every day.
I think that's with kind of with anything, is that if you had that immersion into it all the time, it would lose.
Yeah, just
that magic.
Yeah, and I like that. Like, oh, it has been 3 weeks. Let's, and now that, like I said, Leslie's doing strawberry shortcake, so she's been fun to hunt with, because let me tell you, she's my number one enabler. She's down, the other side. I've lost sight of her, and I hear in the distance, "You're gonna want to see this," and and I'm like, I'm on my way.
Yeah, it's great that we get those people in our lives that are enablers. It's hilarious, because a lot of the reasons that I collect some of the lines that I do are the people that have become my enablers in the community. Yeah, I'm
exactly.
just like, really? You couldn't have told me that I would be doing Mythic Legions.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started. And it started with 3, and it's a little more than 3 now, but I'm still being really picky with it. I'm picking and choosing. And now, if you told me that I was going to customize Mythic and Cosmic Legions, I would have told you no, because they're too expensive. Well, now I'm starting to go, oh, well, I'm going to buy figures to customize.
You're a mad scientist.
Slippery slopes.
Right?
It starts with 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any time that you see yourself not collecting? And what would that look like for you?
I don't see ever not collecting, but I can definitely see when we hit the grandkids start to show up. I can see, we've kept all of our daughter's toys, just like my parents kept, most of ours. So we've tried to do that. So we have all the Sweet Streets and and all this stuff. So if we ever have a gal granddaughter, I mean, we got American Girl dolls. You name it, we got it.
We
You
got
want
it,
Monster High, we got Monster High. You want Bratz, we got Bratz. But if we get a boy, I'm like, oh, well, I've got all kinds of G.I. Joe. I think I'd still collect a little bit, but then at the same time, through that yet to be named player, I'm like, they would really like this, or they might play with it, when they get to that age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exciting to think as a grandpa, in the future. We hear there's a plan, there's like a 7-year plan, and we're like, hey, you guys do your own thing. We're not those parents. We're like, we need a grandkid, like, no. You guys,
I'm not in any hurry to have grandpa with my name yet. It's like, give me a few years.
Yeah, give me a few years, but at the same time, I can in my head go, oh, that's gonna be cool.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Things.
Plus, you can give them back. Here, take your kid.
Yeah. I don't have to deal with it for very long. Yeah, can go home with you.
But we're blessed to have great neighbors, and they've got younger kids. And so we get to play with them, and they were like, they kind of think of you as like a third set of grandparents. And I'm like, hey, wow, I really feel old. But at the same time, I'm like, that's pretty cool. But I have no qualms, playing in the sandbox and all that. I mean, it's, again, getting to be able to do that play and just forget what time it is. And, that's good stuff.
It's so many people forget that part is that we get so wrapped up in trying to do the things to live that we forget to have a life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the life that gives everything meaning.
Yeah, it's very easy to get stuck in that rat race mentality. Okay, yep, wake up, go to work, come home, do it again.
It's one of the good things that my son taught me in an indirect way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was definitely, I was a clinical program coordinator for psychiatric hospitals. So it was not a insignificant job. It was paid well. It did all of the things, ticked all the boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, he started going downhill. At that point, it was Dad had to do what he had to do for him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which taught me humility. It also gave me that opportunity to do something different.
Yep.
And to have a little bit less burnout, because I was burning out toward the end. So it was a blessing and a curse at the time. But
sure,
I don't regret giving it up.
That's good.
Not for a minute. There are times where I want to strangle him, but it's normal with any kid.
That's any kid.
That's a normal reaction to your kid being annoying, right?
I was thinking of Rodney Dangerfield. Now I know why animals eat their young.
Exactly.
Yep, we're all there.
We're getting toward the end, and I've got a couple more questions, and these are kind of the big questions, and these are, in psychology we would call this the magic question, but we're going to preface it for toys. In psychology, if I was asking you the question, if all your problems went away today, what would you do? So for toys, I'm saying the two things that we have the biggest concerns over are space and money. If space and money were not an object, what would Scuba Pete collect?
Oh my gosh. I think I would go hog wild, like those Lego channels where they're in, you come down the basement and the whole basement is this like Lego world, with, high rises and, every set known to man, like that. I think would be really appealing to do, and all the organized parts and all their little, sexy bins, where you just go, oh, that's here and that's there, instead of it's in here somewhere. Hold on. Let me take 20 minutes to find that piece. I think, if money were no object, space was no object, I would want to have Yeah, like Legoville, just insane. And I love watching those channels because it's something different.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Lego
and
is kind of that all-purpose toy, really. I mean, you can be anything you want to be with it.
mhm.
You can do superheroes. You can do, space explorer. You can do desert, you know,
Yeah,
oasis.
you name it. Doesn't Leslie said, she can build a set, just following the instructions and
Yeah.
okay. But she said you and Haley will scratch build stuff or have scratch built stuff. She goes, I don't know how you do that. My brain's not programmed that way. That's not a thing for me. But the look on your all's faces in here lately, it's just my face. But she's like, the look on your face when you're building, it's like you're 10.
Yeah.
You know, I
In
can
that
tell.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, in that moment. Um, yeah, Lego's just it's awesome. I'm always cruising the Lego aisle at Target. I'm like a moth to a flame. Like, oh, we need milk. I'll go.
My
And zip around.
my oldest boy, he did Lego for the longest time, but realistically, he didn't do Lego. I did the Lego. He just sat around.
Uh-huh.
So, Dad put it together, and of course, then within a few minutes it was broken, or I can remember getting like the Avengers Quinjet and
Oh
putting
yeah.
that together for him, and he helped like 2 bricks, and then the rest of the time it was just me, and I'm just like, ugh. Not again. I will get small kits. No more big ones. My fingers hurt.
Yeah, it's a lot of snapping.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that we do, for him he would do that, but he would also take the stuff apart and he would build whatever with it. And
Mm-hmm.
he was very creative with it for a while. Now they just sit in bins in his closet. He's 16.
Yep.
He's too cool. He's too cool for toys.
Exactly. Yeah, that
Even though
stuff's
he
in
still buys, I
hibernation.
still buy him toys and stuffed animals. So I
Awesome.
can't say anything about it. Whatever he likes, he likes.
Yep.
It is what it is. I'm
Yeah.
gonna work with him. If he likes it and he wants it, he's gonna get used out of it and find joy in it. All the better
Yep.
for him. So my last question, and this is the one that I ask everyone because it's one of those things that I had to program into my brain to do, because it's really easy to get wrapped up in the negative, and it's really easy to get involved in things that are not really important. But I make a point to find joy or gratefulness in each and every day, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how bad my day is, no matter what's going on everywhere else. I have to find something that I find joy in for that day. So, with that being said, what did you find joy in today?
Today, I would say I got to have lunch with 3 other buddies. I rearranged my schedule. I'm more of a night owl person. I can hang out till 2, 3 a.m. kind of deal, and then I don't want to get up till 10. I'm blessed that I make my own schedule,
Yeah.
which is cool. I'm not micromanaged that way, thank God. So that's kind of how I'm hardwired, and more so now post lockdown, because it's like, well, you're at home. What else you gonna do?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm monkeying with that. Oh, it's 2 a.m. So some friends were like, hey, we're gonna get together for lunch if you can make it. And I'm like, oh, on a Friday? That's I got a lot of stuff to, accounts to hit. And I'm like, but if I get up like 7 a.m., I can get rolling and I'll be done come lunchtime, and I can meet them. I can make an effort to make that happen. And I know I'm going to have a great time. And that's exactly what we all got together for a fish sandwich and swap stories. And that was awesome.
All right. Well, that for me today, actually, I had a lot of fun just playing with my son.
Nice.
He did lots of squishes, and we were hanging out for a while, and he was in a good mood today for the most part, considering he got up at 4. So I've been up since 4 a.m.
Ooh.
So I'm
you're
my brain is loopy a little bit, but
uh-huh.
it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm moderately coherent.
You're headed towards punch drunk.
We're not quite there yet, but if it hits midnight, I may. But we're
Uh-huh.
not even. We're only at 10:45 or so. I don't know. I don't see my. Hang on, let me pull
Oh,
this up.
yep, 10:45.
10:45. Hey, good guess. It's sad that I can guess it, but why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and what you got
Cool.
coming up?
So you can always find me on Chasing 80s Toys with my friends Chris Miwa and Jeff Barker. We share that channel together, and we're berating politely and joking with Jeff Barker that he needs to make some content. And he's like, I know. He's working a lot lately, so uh, he's got good reason. But I was like, people like to see you, man. He went to a convention and got recognized. He's like, you're Jeff Parker, and he's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I've watched some of your videos. And I said, see, Jeff, people know you.
There you go.
But yeah, you can find us hanging out there. Like I said, the newest video from me is up on the Xenia, Ohio toy hunt. I think it's around 15-minute long video or so that I did with my buddy Ron, who lives in Cincinnati. And then we've also got Leslie and I have a newer channel called the Scubas, and
I am subscribed, so
thank
I
you.
didn't. I forgot to pull that one up.
No, it's all right. I didn't give you any of the stuff for that one, but yeah, it's new for us, and it's gonna be some toy stuff, but travel and crazy adventures as we see fit. So
She just called the Scuba's empty nest.
right, yeah, it's that's how we're coping. It's Haley got married, and then she came back from honeymoon and all that, and she was like, "You got new carpet and a bigger TV in my old room," and I was like, "Yep." I'm like, this is how I'm coping.
Yes, this is how I'm managing this. This is all new to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on, but I will tell people I will be on tomorrow night with the folks that are normally on Ostradamus Toys Clubhouse.
Cool.
Most of them, Oz is taking the week off. He hasn't really been doing. I was surprised to see him in the chat. Honestly, I know that he was taking a week to
decompress,
get himself off because he goes 2 or 3 lives and then 6 hours on a live on a weekend.
Yeah, he goes 90 miles an hour.
I can't.
I can't either. I'm like,
wow. I struggle with getting like 2.5 hours in, 3 hours. It was like one night we did 5 hours. I was just like, I was dying by that time. I was like, I'm out. I'm tapping out.
I can't do it.
Can't do it. But I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I appreciate everyone watching. And I got to find my other thing. Hang on. Oh, where'd it go? Go back. No. There it goes. Everyone, if you can be anything, be kind. And have a good weekend.
Yep.